Who is Arch Warhammer? I hear you asking. Arch Warhammer does Warhammer 40k lore videos on his channel. Now listen, I've played Warhammer 40k before. I've played the tabletop, okay? That means I have a big dick, all right? That's like, let's just be real about what that means, like in a, you know, in a practical sense, okay? I don't do it anymore because, oh boy, does that shit get expensive. But it was a lot of fun while I did it, you know? It was a lot of fun while I did it. Now, my main issue here isn't really the viability of Warhammer itself, as it is the fact that Arch Warhammer is a fascist. I have gone over Arch Warhammer's videos in the past. He is a fascist. He's probably a white nationalist too. Very much, defending the bloodline, defending the homeland type. And it's funny because there are a lot of dipshit fashy LARPers who come out of the Warhammer 40k community, considering the fact that the human faction in Warhammer 40k is a fascist empire. So it seems the obvious satire in the books and in the tabletop and in the lore kind of passed them by on that one. The point is that, of course, the Empire is bad, just everything else is also bad, with the possible exception of the Tau. But no, they just kind of went right through. Emperor forever. Let's do it. Oh, get ready for the voice, by the way.
Greetings and salutations, friends.
Yep.
It is time to talk about everyone's favorite topic in Warhammer 40k, gender-neutral pronouns. Because this is a thing we need to talk about now. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of an incursion of this.
I'm going to say this exactly once, okay? Precisely once in this video, and then I'm not going to repeat it. This voice makes me want to kill myself. This is not his actual voice. If you look at his gameplay videos, he sounds like a normal British dude. He is putting on a LARPy accent. That is also why he has an insignia behind his head. This is incredibly cringe. This is not his normal voice. He's doing it on purpose. He also chose to style his facial hair this way. Let's move on.
Talk about now. Unfortunately, there was a little bit of an incursion of this a while ago with an Adeptus Mechanicus character who wanted to use gender-neutral pronouns, but that basically killed itself when the author actually had to answer questions from people asking if he had simply just misspelled something, because
I don't know.
Outside of the minuscule SJW bubble in which this is a thing, most people don't know and don't care about.
So let's clarify really quickly, okay? I have no idea what prior context he's referring to here. I'm going to take a wild guess and say it was probably some figurine released or some character or whatever that went by they, them, or they referred to as they, them, or something like that. So this is usually how things go, okay? Usually a video game company or movie director or some other media creator will do something progressive, okay? We've seen this happen with no bullshit all the time, okay? They'll do something progressive. They'll put a woman in there, or a black person in there, or somebody in there will have non-standard pronouns, or something like that. Just some progressive thing, okay? Most people won't care at all. But some people will pretend to care to make money off of very angry people who also do sincerely care. And I think that's what's going on right here. So this SJW bubble, I don't know. Maybe this character he's referring to went by Z-Zim, in which case I agree. That probably is a bubble. It's probably not a tremendous number of people who care about the neo pronouns. But if it was they, them, I mean, they, them's been used singular for hundreds of years. It's a little weird to characterize that as being a SJW bubble thing. But let's see, what's the video about? Arch Warhammer, tell me, show me.
About gender-neutral pronouns. And so I reacted to that with an large, big old meh, essentially.
Essentially. God, fuck me. Holy shit.
Problem seemed to kill itself off nice and quickly. However, we now have a bit more of a serious incursion, a little bit more of a determined one, shall we say.
Yeah. You can't mix the fake posh accent with the stammering. You can't.
a little bit more of a determined one, shall we say?
He winces.
Determined one, shall we say?
He like is the more determined one, which is, oh god.
In the form of Rites of Passage by Mike Brooks. This is a little bit more of a determined attempt, shall we say. Mike Brooks is, as unfortunately most Black Library authors, pretty damn far left when it comes to his politics. But unlike most Black Library authors, he does not have the good graces to keep his politics out of his writing.
That's really funny. So, this dude right here is complaining about politics in writing in Warhammer 40k, an extremely satire-driven political story about people of different warring ideologies who often conflict over their political values. What the fuck? Imagine pretending to be a 40k fan and complaining about politics in the writing. Holy shit. This would be like playing fucking Metal Gear Solid. This would be like playing Metal Gear Solid. And at one point, you know, you see like a girl or whatever, and you're like, listen, I like Metal Gear Solid and all. I just think they went too political at the end there when they put a woman in. Like, it's like, does this guy even know what the fuck? Now, the funny thing is, of course, that this guy is, again, a fascist. And his videos reflect his fascist beliefs. So if he's sincerely offended that somebody is being open with their political values, he is a hypocrite and stupid. This doesn't look like fascist content, just anti-SJW commentary. Oh, this video so far isn't fascist. The video I did on him in the past, he was talking about like bloodlines and like the need to defend your homeland against invaders. It was in response to the Christchurch shooting, and he was like defending the mentality of the Christchurch shooter. In that video, he was a fascist. Let's do it.
Which is why I'm making this video now.
Do it.
The book itself, I've actually heard is fairly okay, and I haven't read it, so I can't really pass.
You haven't read it? And people say it's okay? Okay.
Judgment on that. I mean, hell, with the sheer quantity of books being released by the Black Library these days, even attempting to keep up with that is not really possible, no. So
the Black Library, by the way, is just like a group. It's just like a group. It's like a kind of, they're doing like lore for the series, by the way, just so you know. It's not like a weird specific thing.
Instead, I figured I'd talk a bit more generally about the use of gender-neutral pronouns in 40k.
Nice. I love this. So he admits he hasn't read the book that he's basing this discussion on. He just read somewhere that some more left-leaning writer did something political in a highly political series, and I was like, well, I didn't read anything, but I thought this would be an excellent opportunity for me to inject my political views into the situation, just as I have critiqued others for doing so before. I'm ready.
And I'm going to first off start off by playing a little bit of a devil's advocate game here, because 40k is vast.
Watch out.
There are
Horus Heresy 2 coming
planets
around
out there, and practically anything is possible, even gender-neutral pronouns. Now, I think that Adeptus Mechanicus would probably actually be the least likely to use them because, well, what do they care about gender?
That would be why they use gender-neutral pronouns, actually. Right? That makes sense to me. I mean, if you guys want to see, just really quickly, we can do some 40k lore here. I'm here for it. The Adeptus Mechanicus, if my lore is on point here, the Adeptus Mechanicus, here you can see like the little figurines. This is essentially a machine cult run on Mars. You know, Mars, the planet, the one Elon Musk wants to go to, and there are a bunch of like highly technologically integrated cultists who worship the god of the machines, and they all look super fucking sick, and they all wear very heavy armor, and you never see any flesh because machine is all. I don't know why these people would ever care about gender like that. Like, that'd be very strange to me. In fact, gender isn't that much of a component of most of 40k. Now, of course, like, it's not completely irrelevant or anything, but for the most part, 40k comes off rather sexless. the Space Marines and soldiers are all men, which might be more of a reflection of the people who made the game than it would be the actual lore of the universe itself. But for the most part, like the stories involving 40K aren't like these lusty affairs where sex and relationships and so on and so forth are the driving force. It tends to be military conquest, high lofty ideological goals, theological conflict, and like existential horror that drive the differences between these groups. Not like lovey, like Michael Bay, like the world is ending, but at least these two found love kind of shit. So if there's any group of the humans that wouldn't give a fuck about gender, I feel like the Adeptus Mechanicus would be up there. But all right, let's whatever. I don't have a channel called Arch Warhammer, so aren't there literally demon succubi aliens? Yeah, but that's not the humans. And also the and the demon succubi aliens are literally from the god of lust called Slanesh. So listen, if you want to use gendered pronouns as like a worshiper of Slanesh, I get that, okay? I get that. That tracks to me. Gender's going on over there. But for the Adeptus Mechanicus, you know.
The Adeptus Mechanicus, much like the entirety of the human population in the 41st millennium, essentially worship humanity. They view humanity as the perfect species and the one with a manifest destiny to rule the galaxy, with a right to rule the galaxy, as humanity is obviously superior to all of the other vile Xenos races.
Vile Xenos races! I guess I can't really get over how embarrassing the voice is. Do other people not care? Do other people really not care about that? Is it just me?
But there are differences in what one defines as humanity. For the Adeptus Mechanicus, it is the mind, the brain, the personality of a person. That is humanity. And therefore switching out everything else, replacing the heart, which will eventually give out, with a mechanical pump, just makes sense to them, because it'll allow the mind to live on for longer. This is also why they do not ever replace the mind, and even use the human mind in a part of their automation process in the case of servitors, because they worship, again, humanity.
Okay, so far we're 3.5 minutes in, and this is a really strong case for not caring about gendered pronouns. Oh my god! Oh, okay, no, Posadishtan, he's not wearing a cape, he's wearing a hoodie. For a second, I thought these two clasps right here were for a cape, but this is definitely a hoodie. Whew, okay. Whew, right, okay. Mom, time to make another video. Where's my cape?
However, the idea of gender, beyond being an aspect of humanity, would be something they would just not fucking care about.
Yeah.
You could ask an Adeptus Mechanicus if he was human, and he would unequivocally say yes, absolutely. You could then ask him if he was a man or a woman, depending on his original gender, and he would probably also say unequivocally yes.
Wait, he would just say yes? Hey, are you a man or a woman underneath all of that power armor? Yes. Okay. I don't think so. I disagree with this. I disagree with this reading. I don't know. What's Listen, I've never personally met a member of the Adeptus Mechanicus, okay? So maybe my ignorance is showing through. Maybe I personally am not. Maybe this guy right here has met Adeptus Mechanicus. I just feel like gender is not really an important component of a highly transhumanist, technologically advanced society. It just doesn't feel like gender really matters in that scenario. So if you were to have a character that was gender neutral, like, that makes total sense. If anything, the entire cult would be gender neutral, right? I mean, why would it matter? Like, why? How is that relevant? Do they even fuck? Like, I feel like they probably just have like genital clamps that latch on to their extremities and just sort of suck out the extraneous juices, you know? And then like somewhere that's added to a biovat and more people are grown. And also, of course, non-binary people can fuck. Yes.
because that is an aspect of humanity. We have two genders, except for
Alright,
an absolutely tiny, winchy-wanchy, minuscule minority.
Here we go. Here we get to it. Hold on.
Yes, because that is an aspect of humanity. We have two genders.
This dude right here, this dumbass motherfucker, was just like the Adeptus Mechanicus, along with the rest of humanity, worship humanity, but they'll toss aside everything else, their heart, their body, all that matters is humanity. And then he's going to unironically defend gender? Like, that's what these people are going to hold on to? If you're going to say that gender is an aspect of humanity, then so is having a fucking heart. The funny thing is, you know, for humans, at least up to here, the second or third millennium? Up till here, the third millennium post-Jesus Christ, every human being ever has had a heart. Whereas there have been societies that don't subscribe to our gender paradigm. This is, by the way, the kind of like sex equals gender kind of dude right here. So I assume I'm going to have to repeat this over and over again. But we have two sexes, and even then it gets complicated. But gender is a collection of social values associated with sex. I know we go over this before, but it's important to clarify. So let's go over it. Let's do the rundown, okay? Let's do the rundown, guys. Let's do it. Dun 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 dun. It's Vosh's time to demonstrate the difference between gender and sex. Guys, what is this beard? That is a product as a secondary sexual characteristic. I'm a male, so I grow hair on my face. Now, some females do as well, but gendered sexual characteristic right there. Component of my sex, you know? Now, why did I choose to keep it out like this? Well, that's a gender thing, but we'll get to that, okay? All right, cool. What about my hair? I have long hair. Isn't it usually women who have long hair? Well, actually, hair is exactly the same for men and women. The fact that women typically have long hair and men have short, that's a social thing. That's not biological. My penis, that's biological. I was born with that. It's a sexual component. The fact that I wear this rather than a dress, that's gender. See, that's a social component, not biological. There's nothing biological about choosing to wear a dress or a suit over one another. It's what social expectations are. It's not like the flannel shirt is hard coded to acclimate to the testosterone fueled pheromones. No, of course not. So this is a distinction, very important. So would sex be something that the Adeptus Mechanicus would recognize and care about? Probably, insofar as it suited their biological purposes. Would gender be important to them? Well, considering gender is an asinine social construct that exists now as we understand it, but was very different 100 years ago and even more different 1,000 years ago, and that's just within Europe, I would be willing to say, probably, that no, actually. I don't think the Adeptus Mechanicus would care very much about gender. But even if they did care about gender for the most part, some members of the Adeptus Mechanicus probably wouldn't. I think that's all very reasonable. It all fits within the lore. It all makes perfect sense. It's all very big brain. And anyone who wants to argue otherwise isn't actually arguing in favor of the Warhammer 40k lore. They're actually arguing in favor of their own political position. Which is funny because, again, that's what he criticized an author for doing at the beginning of his video.
Except for an absolutely tiny, winchy-wanchy, minuscule minority, a 0.0 something of people who are born without the usual signifiers. But again,
I think the intersex population actually ranges and might be as much as 2% of the population. Though obviously, the extent to which you are intersex varies. But again, he's conflating gender and sex.
It is so rare that mentioning it is hardly worth it. But beyond beyond gender being an aspect of humanity...
Well, hearts and lungs are an aspect of humanity. What the fuck do you mean? And if you're going to say that ideological components of humanity are also a component of humanity, then okay, what about prom? Do you think Adeptus Mechanicus, like, they care that much about prom? Do you think they care that much about, like, walking on the right side of the crosswalk? Do you think they care? Like, there are so many social conventions that are temporal. They exist in a given period of time, in a given society, and then they disappear. It is, by the way, the purview of people like this, the ignorant and the small-minded, to believe that the very tiny, very small, very contextual social standards that they grew up with are these, like, ephemeral truths that extend extend infinitely both directions in time and in all parts of society. It's a very small way of thinking. It's indicative of lower levels of intelligence, if I do say so myself. For you to look at something like gender, which is different today than it was 20 years ago, and it's different 20 years ago than it was a century ago, and is different today than it is in other parts of the world today, and the amount of intervariability between these groups is greater and greater the farther back and the farther away you go. To look at that and then to say, this is an inextricable component of humanity that future space cultist wizards would sincerely care about if you ask them is ludicrous. It's absolutely ludicrous. In 40,000 years in the future, even sex probably wouldn't matter that much, right? Like at that level of technological involvement, why are we even fucking anymore? It's just very small-minded.
Like a heart or lungs.
Wait, what about heart or lungs?
A aspect of humanity, like a heart or lungs or anything else, I doubt the Adeptus Mechanicus would care. Just like an Adeptus Mechanicus would not call himself fat because he weighs 7.2 tons, fully machined, you know?
Okay, wait, he's still playing devil's advocate. I didn't know if he'd switched yet. But okay, I'm substantiating the argument that he is making in a devil's advocate right now, okay? That's what he's doing. He's playing devil's advocate, and I'm saying, yeah, that's a pretty good advocate, Devil.
It's simply not a concept they would give a flying fuck about. However, one group in Imperial Society that I could totally see use gender-neutral pronouns would be the very upper echelons of Imperial Society. The super wealthy planetary nobility, essentially. Because these people are trapped in an existence of constant overflowing indulgence to the point.
I don't know what the fuck we're talking about right now. I thought he was playing devil's advocate and indicating that gender probably wouldn't matter to the Adeptus Mechanicus. But then he said and now he's referring to a different group. Wait, I'm actually confused. Wait, hold on. I'm actually confused. Can anyone tell if he actually just made a devil's advocate case for gender neutrality in the Adeptus Mechanicus, or if he didn't? Because I genuinely don't know. I think he actually, I don't know if his syntax was off, but I feel like he varied between saying that it was something they would care about and saying something. Okay, chat's confused too. Okay, yeah. I don't actually know what point he's trying to make. Whatever. Well, my point stands true.
That indulgence itself is.
Oh, he thinks not caring about gender proves his point? Oh! This guy thinks that not caring about gender would mean you're more likely to use gendered pronouns? That explains his arguments, but that's an indefensible position. What? Ah, yes, we don't care about gender, which is why we adhere to millennia-old ascriptions of gendered what the fuck? Okay. All right. Yeah, this guy's making a really confusing case. Let's
not even
move it through.
Indulgence anymore, it is simply just normality. In these realms of Imperial Society, where they spend astronomical sums on simply just following the latest trend, say for example, 1 month it's all the rage to have your servitors look human. They hire artists for astronomical sums to create real lifelike face masks with the ability to show emotions and micro-expressions, etc. And then maybe the next month it's all about minimalistic appeal, where the servitors are supposed to be stripped back to the very bare bones and basics to show that the planetary noble in question does not have any pretenses and so on and so on.
I don't know what the fuck he's going on about, but if he's trying to establish a link between indulgence and wealth and like being non-binary, I don't think that link exists. I have no idea what the fuck he's going on about. I'm pretty sure the Roman nobility who were fucking and eating and throwing up all of the time probably weren't calling each other by non-binary pronouns. I think what he's trying to do is associate the concept of non-binary pronouns with degeneracy and with like trendiness. But whether or not that's degeneracy is up to you. But in terms of trendiness, the use of gender neutral pronouns has only been growing more and more prominent over the past few decades, and it doesn't have anything to do with the upper echelons of society.
These groups I could totally see adopting gender-neutral pronouns as being the latest fashion, essentially. A way for one noble to be like, no, I am more special than you, for I am a V. I am, in fact, a houseplant.
They've got one joke, guys. 2 jokes. He did it. He... I don't... All right.
Sexually identify as a pre-meditative walrus.
He did it again. He did it again. he did it again.
Which travels primarily via bipedal locomotion. I could totally see that.
So, okay. So he's trying to establish a relationship between like this is very typical to fascist thought right here, or at least to being a huge dumb fuck. So I don't know what original writing he's even speaking on here. He was talking about gender neutrality initially, using they them. They them. That's it. And now he's going into this weird other kin thing. He's actually laughing right now at his I identify as a walrus thing. I mean, whoo boy. But this conflating a bunch of different things, this is kind of par for the course, right? So he was talking about using they them pronouns, and now he's talking about z zim, and then he's talking about identifying as a houseplant, and he's trying to relate all of this to the frivolity and degeneracy of like bougie fucking out of touch elitists who spend exorbitant amount of money chasing trends, when in reality, and this is true, most non-binary people I know are just poor, trying to live their lives. They just go by they, them. That's it. And for this guy to say that the Adeptus Mechanicus wouldn't go by they, them because they don't care about gender reveals such an astounding misunderstanding of how all of this works. These are the moments that make me think like, maybe they're not all like deliberate bad faith actors. Maybe they're just all cripplingly retarded. Because this guy right here has been doing reactionary politics for over a year now, and he's still laughing at the walrus joke. He's laughing at it. And he made the argument that not caring about gender means you would want to use gendered pronouns. That's I'm just really like I'm just wondering like how much of that is deliberately mispresenting information and how much of that is just brainworms.
I could absolutely see that. And hey, there could even be a planet within the Imperium where gender-neutral pronouns are used and indeed enforced as a part of regular, everyday society.
It's another indication, by the way, of authoritarian thinking that you only believe the way that like social change can happen is through like state mandated pressure. This Warhammer 40K happens 40,000 years in the future in a time of unbelievable magic and technology and social upheaval, and this guy literally can't fathom the idea of people like being non-binary or using different pronouns or of language or gender relations fundamentally changing. Again, it's an indication of a very, very small mind. And it makes me worry that like, when I was younger, I believed the problem with the world was stupid people, that I was very smart and everyone else was just dumb, and if I could just be in charge of everything, then my big brain would fix things. And when I got older, I realized it's not stupid people fundamentally that are the issue. It's immoral people. It's cruel, mean people, vicious people. There are stupid people, and sometimes they are a problem, but for the most part, it's people who have information and choose not to operate on it, you know, who act evil in spite of knowing better. And then when I see videos like this, I begin to wonder again. I begin to wonder, Because it seems like a lot that's going on in this guy's head might be more stupidity than evil. I mean, he was defending the ideology of the Christchurch shooter, of course, so, hey, let's just...
Basically. Like some societies might develop Sir, others might develop Zer, others might develop some other form of honorifics. I can totally see a society where this becomes a thing. Granted, the vast majority of imperial citizens are far too worried about, what they're going to eat tomorrow, or where they're going to sleep between the near interminable shifts at a manufactorum to really give a shit. But I could totally see a plan.
This is that association of non-binary pronouns with frivolity. This guy thinks like, these guys can't possibly have a different system of referring to each other. They can't have different pronouns. They're all poor. They don't have time for that. This is it. 40,000 years in the future. And we all have to use the same pronouns, even though the language we use has changed remarkably over the past century. He thinks that in 40,000 years, we'll be using the same basic language to refer to one another. I just can't imagine thinking that way. I can't imagine believing society could be that stagnant. There are languages in existence today that have singular neutral gender pronouns or two gender pronouns the way we do, or gender neutral pronouns, or more than that. That exists today. 40,000 years in the future. And this is how limited this guy's thinking is. This, by the way, is one of the reasons why science fiction gets really bad when fascists are writing it. Most of the good science fiction is written by progressives or socialists, okay? Because it takes an imaginative mind, an expansive mind, to understand the potential the future holds. And the mindset of conservatism and reactionary politics and fascism are rooted in the belief that things are fundamentally right where they should be right now, and that all changes and all deviations from that are degeneracy, and without any other outside force, this is the right way things would be, and they would stretch onward perfectly into the future, into perpetuity. I mean, the original Warhammer 40k mythos is critical of fascism. You're supposed to look at the Empire, the Emperor, and think like, holy shit, this is humanity's future? Xenophobic, locked off, tyrannical, addled by religious zealotry, horrible to live in, constantly on the brink of destruction. And you're supposed to look at that and think, that's not great. You're supposed to look at how everyone blindly worships a dead man sitting on a golden throne to whom thousands of psychics are sacrificed every day and think, that's not great. It's a critique of fascist politics, not an endorsement of them. The idea is to be expansive, to open your mind. How can humanity change? How can things get better? How can things get worse? But that's not what people like this are capable of. Hyena, if you're trying to restart the thing, you have to restart Streamlabs and then click on properties for the camera. Oh my god. One sec.
Planet where they literally had not adopted he, him, etc. for millennia, and using viz, vir, that nonsense was completely normal. Absolutely. Could happen. The Imperium is a large place.
It's literally galaxy spanning. And this guy's like, I can't imagine a planet where people are using... It's not even the weird transphobia or whatever. It's honestly just the limit of thought that bothers me. It's honestly just how small the scope of imagination is. That's what gets me.
However, now that I've played devil's advocate for a little bit, let us ask ourselves a question here. Oh, and by the way, in Rites of Passage, that is a book about Navis Nobilitae, so I can actually see an argument for why there would be gender-neutral pronoun characters in that book. But
reminder that he hasn't even read the book that he's currently using as a platform to complain about.
Let us get to the real question here, and that is, why is this being done? If this was done to add spice to a character, to add a hint of uniqueness, a little bit of a personality to a world, for example.
Remember that old tweet, guys? To gamers, there are only two genders, male or political. There are only two races, white or political. There are only two body types, normative or political. There are only two hairstyles for women, long or political. This is it. It's the same thing every single time. It's the future. It's 40,000 years in the future. These people can act and behave in really fascinating ways. And for somebody as small-minded as this, who sees so minor a change, someone being referred to as they, and then makes a video talking about how not only is it impossible that this could be a thing in the Empire, but also asking why this must have been done, this is the limitation of thought that ruins good science fiction. And it's honestly disgusting. It genuinely is. It frustrates me because I like science fiction as a medium. Let's hear him complain. Let's give the man some space to breathe.
Then, okay. Depending upon the circumstances, that could be an interesting idea. An entire world built upon a specific way of phrasing something or a way of speaking, etc.
What the fuck are you talking about? A world built on the pronoun? What the fuck are you talking? They would just do it. What do you? That's like saying America is a country built on howdy. It's like America, the nation, built on saying howdy. Like, what the fuck are you talking? It's just some tiny component. What's
kind of the
matters? It matters so much more to you than it does to anyone else.
Between high and low Gothic and then local dialects again. And again, in the case of an imperial noble basically trying to be all special like, yeah, there are circumstances in which this would make sense. But let me find here. Mike, that being Mike Brooks, the writer of Rites of Passage, the book in question where this popped up again, describes himself as a bisexual / bi plus / or whatever equivalent terminology you want to use that doesn't imply a refusal to acknowledge the validity of trans people and is disabled, partially deaf.
Now, here's how a responsible, reasonable, intelligent human being would respond to that, okay? Here's what we know now about the author. They're bi, and they like trans people, so they probably like fucking lots of people. Partially disabled, deaf, left-leaning. That's it. That's it. That's it. That's all there is. Totally normal. Let's see how he responds to this.
This is how he describes himself. Do you think that he added in the gender-neutral pronouns because it made sense inside of the story, as a way to add spice to a character or depth to an already
forced
existing
diversity.
Personality?
Say it, forced diversity.
Or do you think he's simply just trying to push his own political agenda?
Oh, close enough! I love it. Hey, let's say it again. Let's all say it again. All media is reflective of the political interests of those who write it. Warhammer 40k was already political. Yes, obviously a more progressive person is going to have more progressive language in their books. Less progressive people are going to have less progressive language in their books. Easiest difference in the world. If you're the kind of person to complain about that, you're probably fucking brain dead. You probably got fridge temp IQ. It's pathetic. It's so pathetic to me. It's the same rant every time. Do you really think they put this black person in the book to add spice to the world or to add lore? Or do you think they put the black person in the book because they are an SJW? Like, holy shit. Jesus Christ, my guy. You're making a YouTube video right now. It is, like you, pretty stupid. Like, media is reflective of what, we put into it. It's reflective of our interests. And by the way, I should point out, by the way, if we're talking about being cringy or embarrassing, I want to fucking pull hypers in chat if you think this dude's fake poshy LARP accent is more embarrassing than fucking putting your pronouns or putting your sexuality in your author's bio at the back of a book. Please, I want to see hypers if that's what you believe. Ooh, that's a lot of people. A lot of people are strongly of the opinion that this LARPy shit is infinitely more embarrassing. Infinitely more embarrassing.
Yeah. I know which one I'm putting money on, let's just put it like that. And that is the real issue here. If this is being done for story purposes, or it's just being done casually, then I don't really care.
You don't need, hey, I'm pro art. I don't think you need to justify why you do stuff like that. I don't think if you have a non-binary character or put a black dude in or a woman in, I don't think you then need to have a council of larpy, like overweight white dudes sitting above you, the light like shining down on you to like disorient. They're like, why did you feel it necessary to include 2 females in the scene in chapter 6? 1 female would have sufficed, but 2 females, and neither of them had their clothing described. Like, it's like this, fuck. You would never apply this level of scrutiny to other aspects of that media. You would never do it. You would never do it. You would never do, like, why did they choose to put this location in? Why did they choose to have this incident? Why did they choose to have it resolved in this way? Why this plot line? You would never, ever, ever do that. The only reason you're doing it here is because you just don't like people being referred to they, them. Just be honest with your fucking preferences. Why are these people such fucking cowards? This is so easy. Just say it. Just say, I don't like trans people, or I don't like non-binary, or whatever. I don't like this trend of neo-pronouns or whatever. I don't like gender-neutral pronouns. I don't like seeing that shit on my books. I would respect that so much more. Holy shit, guys. I would respect that so much more than these people feigning faux outrage at a book they haven't read, saying, oh, this writer is left-leaning, and this character goes by they, them. Forced diversity. Like, it's boring. It happens every time.
We have all kinds of different ethnicities in the Horus Heresy books, for example. I don't give a shit about that because they're all from Terra, which is a pretty damn large place. So somebody coming from Africa or Turkey or the Alps or America or whatever, okay, that's entirely normal. Using gender-neutral pronouns, however, is exceedingly unnatural.
Again, here's where the fascism bleeds in again. This guy thinks he gets to decide what is and is not normal 40,000 years into the future. That's what this guy gets to decide. Worshipping a machine cult? Oh, well, that's fine. That fits within the lore, you know? There is literally a god within machines. Oh, okay, that's fine. Orcs will literally paint their cars red, and the red will make the cars go faster, and orc make it go faster. Yeah, totally, 100%. Orcs are basically fungus? Yeah, no, that's totally fine, totally fine. Whoa, gender-neutral pronouns? That's not normal. That's fucking weird, bro. It's this aversion. See, this is exactly what I mean by reactionary transhumanism. They will embrace the Adeptus Mechanicus because it's cool robot suits. But a person being called they, them, this is a radical change they will not stand for. Because the LARPy robo suits don't challenge anything about their preconceived understanding of society, whereas the they, them pronouns do in regards to their understanding of gender. That's this guy's argument. That's his guy's entire argument. We're 10 minutes in and that's what he has to say. Well, actually, gender-neutral pronouns aren't normal. 40,000 years in the future, in a world with demons and magic and the warp, and where you can paint cars red to make them go faster.
Just from a basic reading comprehension standpoint, this extract from the book I was sent here.
Let's do it.
The bald dome of Viz head, Viz chain of office, and V was holding court in front of the largest gaggle of guests hanging on Viz every word.
Damn.
Does that sound like fucking English to you?
Well, yeah, it does actually, because I completely understood what was said. Are you like brain dead? Does this guy have like a stroke? Could he not understand that? Sounded good to me. Also, you know what doesn't sound like English to me? To be perfectly honest with you, you know what doesn't sound like English to me, to be perfectly honest with you? That your LARPy fucking accent, bro. You have no right to complain about the integrity of the English language. No right whatsoever. No right to complain about the integrity of the English language when you are fucking brutalizing it with your shitty LARP accent, okay? Holy shit.
Because it doesn't sound like English to me. When I am reading that, my brain does not go like, oh, Viz, okay. What the hell does that mean? Well, it means nothing. By design, it means nothing. It is a blank,
It doesn't mean nothing. It's just the pronouns. They just sound a little different than you're used to.
nonsensical term that has no actual meaning or bearing upon the story.
That's it. Fucking irrelevant. It's just a pronoun. Wait, what is that? That'd be like if a character is described and this character had short hair. Why would you put in that they have short hair? It's irrelevant. It means nothing. It has no bearing on the story. It's the same shit every single time.
Gives me absolutely no information about this character beyond the fact that it was written by an SJW.
For one, okay, for one, true. And for two, it's a pronoun. It doesn't have to give you any information on the character. Actually, it does give you information that they don't abide by typical pronoun usage. If you had just seen his, he, and him that used in the exact same paragraph or sentence or whatever, you would have gotten less information. You would have gotten nothing from that. All you would have known was, well, the gender pronouns they use. But now you know not only the gender pronouns that they use, but also the fact that they deviate from traditional gender pronouns. This isn't very important, but the fact that this guy is so incapable of basic reading lit is very funny to me.
And that is literally the end of it. And with the exception of something like, let's be generous here and say 8 to 10% of the total population, that is a nonsense word that you probably...
Wait, 8 to 10% of the population is a huge portion of the population. What the fuck are you talking about? 8 to 10% of the population is over 500 million human beings. Wait, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry if even if we go by his own nonsense numbers here, which make no sense and mean nothing and are based in absolutely no research, even if we go by those nonsense numbers, I'm sorry, 500 million people? Probably a demographic worth like recognizing through literature. I don't know what it is. Despite this only 500 million people care about this.
Probably have never even heard of. And so the question is that to the detriment or benefit of the book?
Okay, this is where I'm going to stop for just 1 second because I have to go check something. I'll be right back. There we go. So as I was saying, hoo boy.
And I would say certainly to the detriment of it. It makes it more difficult for most people to figure out what the hell it says.
Okay, what's going to follow from this point forward is a bunch of really bad faith arguments that I have no interest whatsoever in engaging in. For one, whites are like 8 to 10% of the world population, or not really 8 to 10%, but they're a relatively small group of people compared to the total population. If somebody made a book that like in any way related to white culture, would this guy hold it up and he'd be like, whatever white culture is, by the way, would he hold it up and he'd be like, oh, well, this actually represents the interests of only a small portion of the people who... What the fuck are you talking about? Americans only represent 5% of the population. If he wrote something that was meant to be understood by Americans, or if somebody wrote something that was meant to be understood by Americans, would this guy hold this fucking book up and be like, oh, it's only 5% of the... No, of course not. This is stupid. So even by his own numbers, he's stupid. But those numbers don't even mean anything. At the end of the day, there's only one thing that we can really get from this, okay? This is the exact same series of fucking bad faith dipshit arguments that could only be believed by a Neanderthal anytime anything progressive happens in any media that is recognized by people like this. That is to say, stupid people with a very poor understanding of politics. You get the exact same cries out, oh, they're politicizing our media. Oh, it doesn't serve the interest of the story. Oh, they're forcing their politics into it. Oh, it hurts the story. Oh, it's meaningless. There's no point. There's no point in engaging with these arguments because they'll say this about literally everything. They'll say it if there's a fat person in there. They'll say it if there's an aggressive woman in there. They'll say it if there's a brown woman in there. They'll say it if there's a fucking Jew in there. I don't know how fucking Nazi this guy is. They'll say it if there's a woman with a short haircut. They'll do it on and on and on and on and on. They'll do it forever and ever because at the end of the day, the only resonating truth is this. This is very simple, okay? This is what Arch Warhammer is trying to say. He's trying to squeak it out in his belty little faux fancy pants English accent. He doesn't like it when progressive media is made. That's it. That's the only thing. It has nothing to do with whether or not it serves the story or not, because this guy would never make a video complaining about how some other aspect didn't serve the story in the same way that he is here. He would never read like the pronouns of a character and say like, this didn't serve the story. Why did this character need to be female? Why did this character need to be male? He would never, ever, ever do that. He just doesn't like seeing progressive things in there. Which makes sense because he is a fascist. Again, he defended the Christchurch shooting. He was like, ooh, so sad those 50 Muslims died. But then again, the Christchurch shooter was seeing his glorious white homeland invaded by brown people and swarthy Muslims. So, yeah, okay. I mean, if you don't like it, that's on you. Now, with that being said, I think it's totally fine to critique. He did? Yeah, he totally did. Yeah, I have a video on it. Just go through my fucking video arcs. It's the last time I did an Arch Warhammer video. Now, with that being said, I'm okay with criticizing pieces of media that are progressive. I'm a huge snob, by the way. If I went through that book he's complaining about like a little bitch, I guarantee you I could find shit that I could whine about, okay? I might even, by the way, I might even argue that the inclusion of like weirdly obsessive neo-pronoun usage might actually be annoying. But when I do that, if I do that, I don't know, I haven't read the book, of course, but if I do that, it wouldn't be because I hate non-binary pronouns as a concept, or because I hate neo-pronouns or trans people, or because I don't like progressivism. It would be because I like seeing good, cohesive stories. And that's the issue here. When you levy the kind of arguments Arch Warhammer has made here, you lay bare the fact that you don't give a damn about the story, its contents, its quality. All you care about is making sure that your political agenda is protected and disseminated. Yes?
Can I get my headphones?
Your headphones?
Yeah, I think they're in there. I think?
No? No.
Okay.
She's about to stream and she's being so annoying. Anyway, that's all you're going to get from that. And Arch Warhammer is a very small and very unintelligent man with a very, very obnoxious accent. And yeah, that's really all I have to say on the subject.